Sorry about that. Had a little interruption there. In any case, libertarians have ignored the history of how the free market actually achieved its greatest heights in the past. They have ignored the speaking tours of Cobden and Bright, the fact that Cobden and Bright actually made swag to hand out to people, and they printed the writings of Cobden and Bright. These are the people who repealed the English Corn Laws in the first half of the 19th century, before the year 1850. And that was kind of the first organized libertarian political movement, and it was organized around capitalist economics. Anyway, the first organized, in the modern sense, political movement. But there were previous outreach and political attempts that were proto-libertarian or libertarian, and they never focused on economics before Cobden and Bright, and then Bastiat in France was influenced by Cobden and Bright and wanted to emulate them, apparently. And Tom Woods is aware of this, and Tom Woods is one of the more strategically intelligent libertarians. He's a philosophical libertarian, and he started off with an economics focus, but I think more and more he's starting to see that the economic focus is not the right focus, because the general public does not understand economics, will not understand economics, and is not curious about economics. So in order to reach the common man, you have to be able to do outreach from a multitude of different perspectives: history, economics, law, philosophy. And as you go through the history, you start to understand that the high water mark for libertarianism in the United States is getting rid of slavery. And getting rid of slavery united a movement, and it united a serious movement. And it united a serious movement around the morality of getting rid of slavery, and around the law, the legality of getting rid of slavery. That's when the abolitionist movement took off in this country and achieved success in a wildfire type of way. And it didn't do that by championing anarchy. Anarchy is distasteful to a majority of people in any political system that appears to be stable, because it appears to people that bottom-up organization is not actually organization, and it appears to them that you wish to throw out whatever is organized about the current system, which are things that they don't understand. They don't understand economics, so they don't generally understand emergent order, emergent organization. They don't understand that bottom-up organizations built on voluntary interactions are actually more stable, reliable, and organized than top-down organization by command or by edict, because a lot of people are willing to break illegitimate edicts even though they're willing to follow legitimate laws of conduct. Laws of conduct are not equal to, in effect, they're greater in effect than commands or edicts or top-down organization. And people don't understand this, and the majority of voters certainly don't understand this, because voters are self-selecting for having removed themselves from economic comprehension that supports the status quo. Meaning that all the people who understand that the status quo is illegitimate are not the people going out and voting for it. So you have to influence those people. Those people are influenced by conventional political means. So where are there libertarians that are using conventional political means? A little bit there are, but they're doing so stupidly, and they're not recognizing that they're a tiny, tiny, tiny minority fighting a Leviathan. Or they do recognize that, but they don't care, and that doesn't cause them to alter their actions and to fight intelligently. And the intuitive understanding of the general public, the intuitive understanding that they do have, is almost entirely strategic. So it's inverse of what the libertarians' intuitive understanding is. And to clarify that, You've got Austin Peterson now running for U.S. Senate. And in order to elect him to U.S. Senate, you have to spend the amount of money that it would take to win maybe 2 or 3 state legislative seats. And likely more than that. You could win probably 10 legislative seats for the same amount that it would cost to elect Austin Peterson to the U.S. Senate. And once you elect him to the U.S. Senate, he caucuses with Rand Paul. Okay, who cares? It doesn't change anything if he caucuses with Rand Paul. He gets, 98% or 98 people vote against those 2 people then, and that changes nothing. They're dramatically outvoted. And so that it begs the question, where do you go after that? Where does the libertarian movement go after that? Well, they have to find charismatic, intelligent, young people who speak really well and communicate libertarian ideas really well, who will imitate Austin Peterson. And I'm not convinced that there's a lot of those people out there. It's way harder to win a U.S. Senate seat. So what you're talking about is trying to expand a minority that isn't going to have decision-making power for a long time. And even if they did have decision-making power, legislative power is what caused our current situation. That's what enabled all the tyranny. Legislation doesn't matter. The drug war is already illegal under the Bill of Rights and the common law. The reason why we don't have the emergent order of a free market is because this country went away from following the law. This country is illegal. It's not following the law anymore. And this is something that libertarians, intelligent ones, at the time of abolition, Frederick Douglass and Lysander Spooner focused exclusively on this point. This was their whole entire point, was that you couldn't be a good moral person and support slavery, and that in fact slavery was actually unconstitutional. Slavery was actually illegal. The general public is totally willing to listen to arguments that the current system is unconstitutional, illegitimate, or illegal, and that it needs to be dramatically and radically changed, not just reformed. Nobody wants to hear about reform. They don't care. They recognize that the problems are far more serious than just rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic is going to fix. They don't want to reform anything. They want abolition. They want to abolish the illegitimate and evil things that our government is doing. They want to get rid of those things. That's why Colin Kaepernick is taking a knee. That's why people are angry. That's why they're spilling out into the streets in protest against police killing innocent people. This is the core libertarian issue. This is the only libertarian issue that actually matters. It's the only libertarian issue that people care about. The general public is starting to finally wake up to libertarianism, and libertarians want to demand that they read Ludwig von Mises. First of all, that's a good idea. People should read Ludwig von Mises, but they're not going to. They're not going to. So stop suggesting it. You know, I'm not saying completely stop suggesting it, but there are plenty of places where people who are curious and motivated to learn about economics, where they can do so online. There's lots and lots of places for people to learn about economics online. So what approach am I suggesting? I'm suggesting that we take Thomas Woods' strategic conceptions of reality very, very seriously. I'm suggesting that we focus on state nullification. There's no strategy for the libertarians to win that isn't 100% focused on state nullification. It's not as sexy to run for state legislature. It's boring. You have to file papers. You have to file the papers on time. You have to disclose your finances. That's all painful, ugly stuff. A lot of libertarians don't want to do it. They don't want to raise money. That's another thing. You have to raise money. You have to be able to print pamphlets out. You have to be able to print out campaign information. You have to be able to get the word out to the people who live in your state legislative district. But state senate, state house, and sheriff are the only races that libertarians should be running in. And here's what it looks like for them to run a serious race that they intend to win. And I'm going to continue this in another video because I find that it works best if I upload in slots of 10 minutes.